The second sun. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. 2 hours before the sky tore open, Stan Maddox settled the crosshairs on the target. "That's the bastard on the opposite ridge," he said, low. His breath fogged in the cold. "I'm sure of it." He lay prone beside his spotter, Mike, on a barren spine of rock overlooking a long dry valley. The ghillie suit he'd sewn himself did its job. A man 20 feet off wouldn't have picked him out from the scrub. Index finger resting flat above the trigger guard. Not on it, not yet. He walked the Leupold Mark 8 across the far ridge. The dead brush between didn't trouble the glass any. "Pretty sure it's him. Light's doing something funny, though." "Never seen the sky that color before," Mike said. "Silver-like, ain't right." Stan glanced east. A second sun sat low on the horizon, and had for a day now. Betelgeuse had gone supernova, and every channel in the country wanted to talk about it. To Stan it was scenery, nothing more, and he filed it accordingly and went back to work. 2 hours to sunset, and it's already darker than it's got business being. He put his eye back to the scope. "Your spotting scope runs 60 power. Find me his left ear, or the place where an ear used to be. I want a positive ID before anything else happens." He felt Mike shift, tripod legs settling. A gap opened in the haze and threw clean light across the far ridge. "That's him." A tremor rode under Mike's voice. Small, the kind a good spotter doesn't let get any bigger. 800 yards, scar, miss an ear. Same one that reporter took trying to get away from him. Standing alone. Ain't made us. Wind's dead calm the whole way across. Take it. Stan set the first crook of his finger on the trigger, corrected a mill for a wind. He trusted Mike to have read correctly, took one breath, let half of it go, and waited for the moment where the rifle was suspended in time between heartbeats, and squeezed. The rifle answered, a .338. Lapua Magnum doesn't so much fire as detonate, and the round went out the far end of the barrel at better than twice the speed of sound, and the valley walls picked up the report and threw it back and forth between them for a good 3 seconds after the bullet had already finished its work. "Head shot," Mike came up off his elbows. 800 yards clean. "You're a hell of a shot, Stan. You know that?" Stan gave him a weak smile, got his hands and knees under him, and was sick in the grass. Mike had a palm on his back before the second heave finished. "Sorry, buddy. Figured you had a handle on it by now. What's different this time?" Stan found the wet wipe in the pocket he'd stitched into the back of the suit, for exactly this purpose, and cleaned his face, and didn't answer right away. "I never lose the count," he finally said. "Every one of them I can still put a face to." "That's because you never once shot a man in the back," Mike said. "Fool kind of honor, seeing as they never had a prayer against you anyhow. But look here, that there was a man-eating grizzly you just put down. Killed 3 kids and a reporter in 2 weeks. Got himself a taste for people and decided he liked it. Somebody had to close that account, and you did, and Idaho's safer for it. And we just earned $5,000 off the Clearwater Rangers besides." Mike dug through his cooler and came up with a bottle, which he tossed underhand. Stan caught it. "This is cold. Tell me you didn't hump a rack of beer and a bag of ice all the way up this mountain." "Had a feeling about today," Mike grinned. "Sit a minute, drink your Blue Moon, and let's talk about what we're spending that reward on. Plenty of daylight left to go collect our rug." Stan managed a real smile and put away most of the bottle in 3 swallows. "Not so sure about the daylight." He pointed east. "Take a look." Mike looked. Now that there is a peculiar thing to be looking at. The sky over there had the shape of weather coming on, but wrong. A metallic sheen to it, and it moved the way the aurora moves, in slow folds, which was not a thing that happened this far south or this early in the evening. "Spent my whole life outdoors," Stan said. "Scouts, hunting with a pair of uncles, who were half crazy and knew the mountains better than the county did, and I've never once seen weather that color." "Don't you dare mention them Iraq dust storms to me," Mike said, mock wounded. Still finding sand in places sand's got no business being. He studied the eastern sky a moment longer. You figure it's tied to that supernova? I'm no scientist, but Yumi told me yesterday that star's 600 light years off and can't touch us no matter what it does. Doesn't stop it from being unsettling as hell to look at. I'd rather get back to the girls and sit this weather out at the homestead. We can radio the kill in from there. Stan drew one slow breath through his nose and read the air the way another man might read an instrument panel. The pine had gone thin and metallic on the tongue, and under it sat a hard mineral edge he recognized from 100 nights up high. Hard freeze coming tonight, he said. Let's gut the Grizz now and bring the UTV up for him in the morning. They crossed to the far ridge. Stan opened the bear where it lay, hands slick with blood still warm enough to steam a little, the iron smell of it sharp in the back of his throat. Mike shot pictures and tied a strip of orange flagging high on a branch, visible from a fair distance. Dawn, we bring the side-by-side up and drag him home, Stan said, wiping his hands and looking at the mountain going dark around them. Hour and a half back? More? More. We won't push the horses. They worked as hard as we did today. They worked down through the timber toward the horses, Stan picking his footing in the last of the light, and Mike falling in behind without a word, which was one of the things Stan had always valued about the man. Some people needed to fill a silence. Mike knew how to leave one alone. The horses waited at the tree line, tied off to a downed pine. The blue roan turned an ear, and then his whole head, to watch Stan come, shifting his weight, glad for the company. Stan checked the cinch, swung up, and turned the gelding toward home along the muddy trail. Want to talk about it? Mike asked. Talk about what? Don't play games with me, Stan. You know I don't like talking about it. We've hunted these hills together for years, Mike said. Never once seen it hit you like that. Back in Iraq you was the best there was. Good enough that I gave up the trigger and took the spotter's job permanent just to work behind you. Stan bit down on the first thing that came to mind. 20 years of friendship earned Mike the benefit of the doubt, even now. The VA counselors had a name for it and a prescription for it, and neither had ever done him a lick of good. Fine, I talk, you let it go for a while after. Depends how much you dodge it. Stan looked over at him, a man who had hauled him out of worse trouble than either of them cared to count, and been hauled out just as often in return. Something in the set of Mike's shoulders said this wasn't going to be brushed off tonight. Stan sighed, because he knew when he was beat. Bear stood up on its hind legs. For half a second it looked a hell of a lot like a man. But you knew it was a bear. Knew it at 800 yards, Stan said, flat. Knew it the second it caught our wind and didn't run. Knowing never had one thing to do with it. That's what those VA people can't seem to get through their heads. They keep asking whether I understand the threat wasn't real, like understanding was supposed to be the cure. He let his eyes drift down the draw, where the light had gone stranger still. The cold was rising out of the ground, the way it does this time of year, and he was aware of the rifle in the scabbard, the way a man stays aware of an old wound that aches ahead of weather. You put a thing in the glass, and the glass hands it to you close, he said. 25 power, that bear was standing in my lap. Then it came up on 2 feet, shoulders square, forepaws hanging at its sides like arms. He stopped, started again, quieter. For about half a second it wasn't a bear anymore, Mike. My hands ran the whole sequence before any part of me that thinks got a vote. Trigger weight, hold, breathe, brake. 10 years of training doing precisely what it was built to do. Mike let the silence sit. He'd been a spotter too long to step on a man mid-confession. Nobody tells you this part about being good at killing, Stan went on. No self-pity in it. Just a man reading off a fact he'd checked often enough to trust it. Being good means you don't miss. You see them clear, the way a man favors a bad knee. The half second before he turns to say something to the fellow next to him. You carry every one of those out with you whether you want to or not. That bear didn't add a new face to the pile. It just reached in and turned one of the old ones over. They don't stay buried. You don't get to pick the day they surface. A shape on a ridge is enough. He looked at Mike, and the fight had gone out of his friend's shoulders, replaced by something Stan liked considerably less, since he had no defense built for it. So no, knowing it was a bear didn't help. Knowing never helps. That's the whole trouble with knowing. Mike held his eyes a moment longer, then nodded. Enough digging for one day. You talked. I listened. Deal's kept. They rode a while without conversation. You call Annie yet? Stan asked. No signal up here, and the radio's throwing nothing but static. Annie knows better than to worry before dark. Yumi's the same. Past dark, she starts calling hospitals. He nudged the roan on. Hospitals first, search and rescue second. Sounds about right. Mike came up alongside on his bay. How long you two been married now? 23 years this September. Mike whistled low. Feels like I was just standing at your wedding. You weren't at my wedding. That's my point. All these years and you never once told me how y'all met. The trail dropped through bare aspen, going gray in the dusk. The horses found their own footing without being told. Stan let himself smile at the memory. Okinawa, Camp Butler. I was maybe 6 weeks out of boot when they posted me there. Didn't know that's where you started at. Nobody thinks about Butler. It isn't Iraq or Afghanistan. Suited me fine, though. He paused. My mother's Japanese, out of Numazu, a fishing town up the Izu Peninsula. I grew up with the language and the food and the way she ran a house. Getting stationed on Okinawa felt less like overseas duty and more like visiting somewhere close to home. The trail opened out and Mike came up level with him. The sky over the ridge had gone pale green at the edge, still carrying that cold metallic cast, the first stars showing straight up. There was a liaison officer on base, Stan said. JGSDF, Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. Sugiyama-san. Caught me trying my Japanese on a mess hall worker and about fell over laughing at my accent. Came back 2 days later and started correcting me. Twice a week after that, off duty, formal lessons. The man brought books. Stan shook his head. Never did figure out why he bothered. Might have just needed a project. Or he just liked you. Maybe. Interesting man. Hard to read, though that's half the culture right there. What the Japanese show the world and what's underneath aren't the same animal. He said it the way a man says something about somebody he still thinks about from time to time. His daughter came to visit that January, Yumi. She just had her coming-of-age ceremony and wanted to show her father the furosode she'd worn, since duty kept him from the day itself. How'd that go over? And what in creation is a furosode? Fancy kimono, long sleeves, plenty elegant. Her father was giving me a lesson in the mess hall when she walked in. Found us with her eyes and smiled, and it was the most honest smile I believe I've ever seen on a human being. Crossed the room like she belonged in a samurai picture. I do love me them sword fights, Mike said. Her father made the introduction, and she looked me dead in the eye and said, Nice to meet you finally. My father talks about you often. I looked at Sugiyama-san like he'd sold me out to a foreign power. Told you, he liked you. After that we all talked a while, and when I found out she was studying astrophysics at university, that finished the job. Always did favor a woman with a mind on her. Knew it'd be difficult and went ahead anyway because I understood I couldn't let it pass by. She spoke fine English, my Japanese was passable if ugly, and somehow I stayed out of trouble for 3 weeks before I worked up the nerve to ask her father if I could take her to dinner. He said yes. Stan glanced over, then told me if I hurt her he'd see me court-martialed. He was a colonel. He'd have found a way. Mike laughed, and it carried off into the ponderosa and the bare aspen and was gone. We married before I shipped to Iraq, Stan said, the lightness dropping out of his voice. Justice of the peace in Naha. Her mother cried. Sugiyama-san stood there like a man watching his house float off in a flood, and did it with dignity anyway. He was quiet a moment. 20 years old. Didn't know enough yet to be as scared as I ought to have been. They rode without talking through a stretch of meadow, the horses relaxing their necks. What about Annie? Stan said. Not really a question. Considerably less dramatic, Mike said. Finished my enlistment, went home to Fayetteville, went back to my mother's church out of habit more in faith, and didn't have a better idea for a Sunday morning. Annie was singing in the choir. That's the whole story. That's the whole story. Shoulder-length red hair, freckles, singing How Great Thou Art. And I thought, well, that's the one. No irony in him at all when he said it, which was pure Mike. Dated a year, proposed in her parents' living room with her daddy and two brothers sitting right there watching me do it. How'd that go? They all said yes, even the brothers. He chuckled. Found out later the brothers had their own reasons. Neither one wanted to run their daddy's 200-acre hog farm, so they was only too glad to hand it off to me. Stan smiled. Worked out fine for you in the end. Sure did. Farm's profitable, and it's the only trade besides war I ever learned. Mike shook his head. But why an accomplished veterinarian with a practice of her own, who could have had any man she wanted, picked a lanky jarhead farm boy like me? I still can't explain it. Grateful for it every day regardless. They rode on, Stan watching the horizon. Homestead lights showed faint on the ridge ahead, miles off still, but there. Cold was settling down out of the north with real weight behind it, and the horses felt it too, and picked up the pace on their own. Then, all at once, there was no sound at all. Stan's first thought was that he'd gone deaf, until he registered his own horse breathing under him. The forest had simply stopped. He looked over at Mike, who was turning his head one way and then the other, and that was when the vertigo hit, a wave of it that had no business existing, and a flash of silver light bright enough to blind. The horses bolted. Stan hit the mud on one knee before he understood he was falling. He'd had vertigo before. A near-miss IED outside Baghdad had rung him hard enough that he'd spent 2 days in the aid station, not entirely sure what year it was. This wasn't that. This had a direction to it, a pull, as though his bones had decided to go one way and his skin the other. He got a hand down into the cold mud and held on. The light didn't strike once and vanish the way lightning does. It rolled. It came from every direction, and then, all at once, from one direction, out past the tree line to the east, and it moved through him the way a wave moves through water. Not around a man, but straight through, and he felt it in his back teeth, in the fillings on the left side, in the old shoulder wound the VA had long since given up, promising would heal. Mike made a sound Stan had never heard out of him before. Not pain exactly, something with a longer reach than pain. Then the cold quit, not by degrees the way cold usually leaves. Between one breath and the next, the November chill that had been working under his collar all afternoon simply wasn't there anymore. What replaced it was warm and heavy and carried smells he couldn't put a name to right off. Smoke, but not wood smoke, and sweat, and animal, and something with sulfur under it, and noise, an enormous rolling noise. His brain sorted through the way a man sorts a strange alarm out of a dead sleep. Drums, horses screaming, men dying and not quietly about it. He lifted his head out of grass that had no business being there. The muddy trail was gone. In its place, solid ground and grass, and none of it had existed 30 seconds earlier. He got up slow, the careful way a man moves when he isn't sure yet what's broken. Nothing was, best he could tell. He ran the inventory the way he'd been trained to run it. Fingers, feet, legs, arms, eyes, all present and accounted for. The shoulder ached, but that much was old news. Mike lay flat on his back in the grass, 6 feet off, staring straight up at nothing. "You good?" Mike took his time answering. He was running his own inventory. "Define good." "Breathing. Nothing bent the wrong direction." "Then I suppose I am." He rolled to one side and pushed himself up. Stan stood and looked around and found nothing worth saying, because nothing he could think to say would have covered it. The timber was gone. The trail was gone. The horses were gone. His rifle was gone. Where the hills of northern Idaho ought to have been, a river valley opened up below them, terraced and pale under thin morning light. Morning. It had been dusk not 30 seconds before. Beyond the valley a plain stretched out, and something moved on it that his eyes understood a full beat ahead of his brain. An army. 2 armies. He dropped flat without deciding to, hauling Mike down with him into the grass at the edge of the rise. "You still got the spotting scope?" Mike shrugged the rucksack off and dug through it. "Yeah, and in one piece, which is a small miracle." He passed it over. Stan put it to his eye and swept the valley. The nearer force sat behind a long timber palisade, running the width of the valley floor, gaps cut through it at even intervals, firing ports, and behind them men arranged in ranks, kneeling and standing in rotation. Arquebusiers. The word arrived in his head, flat and certain, the way facts do when a man has read enough about a subject that it lives somewhere specific in his skull, filed and ready. Something in his chest did a slow, strange thing. He knew this valley. He knew the river below, the Rengogawa, running cold and quick, and he knew the ridge under him, and he knew the date, June the 28th, 1575, and he knew precisely how this battle was supposed to unfold from the first shot to the last, because he'd studied it the way he studied every fight that had ever changed the mechanics of killing a man. Nagashino, the battle that proved cavalry's day, was done once gunpowder got organized. Oda Nobunaga's masterpiece. Supposed to be his masterpiece. Stan ran his eye along the palisade counting arquebusiers, and stopped counting when he understood what the count meant. Half the line simply wasn't there, not broken, not routed. Gone, the same way he and Mike had been pulled off a muddy Idaho trail, and the holes left behind in Nobunaga's formation were the kind of holes that lost battles. Across the river the Takeda cavalry was massing, leaving 3,000 men behind to keep up the siege on the castle. Even at this range, Stan could hear the horses, and near enough smell them, that particular charge in the air a lot of animals throw off right before they're asked to do something violent. He'd felt that same charge come off men before, and it meant the identical thing. They were about to move. "Stan." Mike's voice had gone quiet and level, the voice he used when he wanted information, and had no interest in spending energy on alarm. "Where in the hell are we?" Stan looked at the valley, the palisade, the cavalry, the morning light lying on a river that had no right to be showing morning light. "Japan," he said. Mike didn't say anything for a beat. "Japan," he repeated. "You are shitting me." "Wrote a book about this fight once. Turning point for firearms, the whole world over." "Don't doubt you for a second. What I want to know is how in the hell we got here." 1575, to be precise." Stan let that sit. "And no, I don't know how we got here either." Below them the drums built towards something, and the Takeda line began to shift and roll forward. The arquebusiers behind the palisade lifted their weapons into the rotation Nobunaga had drilled into them for months, the one built to keep a wall of fire going without a gap in it. That rotation was missing half its men. "All right," Mike said, in the tone of a man who's decided the situation is what it is, and that panic won't buy him one thing more. It was another of the things Stan had always valued about him. "So what's the plan, then?" "Same as it ever is," Stan said. He flattened lower into the grass and studied the field the way he'd once studied 1,000 others. "Stay down. Stay quiet. Figure out how to live through it." Below them, the Battle of Nagashino began. It was not going the way the history books said it would.